This is Lacy Robertson, the hardest working woman in mortgage and real estate nationwide. And I want to answer the question. A lot of times I get the question from my clients whether they should sell or not, whether they should sell now, whether they should wait. And it's a great question, but every family, every household is different, right? Right? Not only is it different, but their financial situation is different. So I like to say this. You don't want to sell because you think that, I'm going to time the market just right, because you can't necessarily time the market just right. The best time to sell is when you need to sell or when it makes sense. Okay. So don't forget, you can't time the market, but I'll give you a couple of things that you can consider when you're thinking about whether you should sell or not. Number one, we know when interest rates are low, it does drive up the demand for a house, right? Supply and demand. So when interest rates are low, you have a tendency that buyers are super excited. They can apply for a mortgage and they can apply most likely and afford a bigger house. So that increases what the numbers of buyers that are shopping for homes, they're bidding, right? You can experience a bidding war when interest rates are low. But this is the deal. Is that necessarily the right time for you to sell your house? Now think about this. If interest rates are low and there's a plethora of buyers that is interested in your house, where are you going? Does it make sense for you to sell? Because you're going to run into that same thing, right? Interest rates are low. So if you are interested in purchasing a home, you're going to end up running into a bidding war for your new property. So again, it has to make sense. You may decide instead of selling your home, if you want to relocate or you need to relocate and buy another home, you may decide, look, I'm going to take out a second or a HELOC on my house and I'm going to keep my home, rent it out, and then purchase a new property. Okay. So again, it has to make sense. I can't stress that enough, right? Another thing to consider, we know if supply is short, so there's just little inventory, that also drives up, excuse me, the property value, right? So you may say, again, that's supply and demand. If, it's only a few houses on the market, hey, it may make sense for you to say, look, I want to sell my house. I can get a lot for it. It's not a lot of houses on the market. Well, again, where are you going to go? If it's not a lot of houses on the market, it may seem like, oh, I can get a lot for my house, supply and demand. But the other thing is, where are you going to go? Is your perfect property listed for sale? So you got to think about it. It has to make sense. You have to look at your own financial situation. You don't want to sell because everybody else is selling. You don't want to sell out of fear that you think the market is going to crash. It just has to make sense, right? Number three, you may want to think about this. Are you ready to downsize? Should you sell? Are you trying to sell because you want to downsize? Or do you have, you're an empty nester now? All the kids are out the house. You're like, look, I don't need all of this. That may be a good reason for you to sell, right? You don't want to have to maintain this big old yard and this 6-bedroom house. All the kids are gone. They're not coming back. So you think. And so that may be a good reason. Again, a good time to sell is when you are looking at your entire situation, your portfolio, and then you get to decide. And then last but not least, you may decide to sell like if you're relocating, but you don't necessarily need to sell when you relocate, right? You can, if you can afford more than one property or more than 3 properties, I don't know how big your portfolio is, you may again decide to take out a second or a HELOC, pull out money from your primary house and go buy another house. But you may just say, if you are moving cross country, several state lines, you may say, you know what, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to have to deal with tenants. Even if you have a property management company, you may just say, I want to cash out. Again, it has to make sense to you and for your family. So make sure, I guess, what you can take away from this video, you want to look at your different options, right? And then you also want to make sure you are not selling because everybody else is. You're not selling necessarily because you're going to get a huge profit on your home just because interest rates are low. You have to consider what your next move is. Does it make sense? So again, this is Lacy Robertson, the hardest working woman in mortgage and real estate nationwide. For all your mortgage and real estate needs, I want you to visit me at modifymenow.com, or better yet, give me a call or text me at 714-914-7254. I'm based in Southern California, Orange County to be specific, but I help people in Orange County, Los Angeles County, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties, and also Kern County. So don't forget, for all your mortgage and real estate needs, visit me at modifymenow.com, where I told you I pick up the phone. You can call me. You can text me at 714-914-7254. I look forward to working with you and for you. And until then, have a blessed day.